So we're at the Mac in Belfast, and tonight is an event run by Equity, which is kind of a few things all in one. It's really a celebration of a campaign that we've been running for 2 years to resist the cuts to the arts here in Northern Ireland. And actually our most recent campaigning that we did was at Christmas. About 10 venues and locations across Belfast and Derry and all over Northern Ireland had postcards that children and adults who were going and enjoying the show were posting to tell us what they love about the arts. And that sent a really powerful message to the people who are in charge of the budget for the arts here in Northern Ireland. We were really pleased. I mean, number one, with the amount of production companies that wanted to be involved. I mean, we had the Waterfront, we had the Millennium Forum, we had In Your Space Circus, we had the Big Top just here in Writers Square as well, just opposite where we are now. All of those and many more companies wanted to get involved and have that post box in their venue to say, save the arts, resist the cuts in Northern Ireland. So we're really pleased. And hundreds and hundreds of people participated, writing letters and also posting those postcards.
Funding has gone backwards. Compared to the other 3 nations in the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland receives £5.08 per capita in funding. Scotland is over £10 per capita, Wales is over £10 per capita, and England is nearly £8 per capita. Something's wrong there. Big organisations, small organisations, community organisations, when those funding numbers are cut, what happens is it's really hard to actually get up and running again. There was a report, and it was for Arts Council England, but it's reflective across all 4 nations, about the fact that 41% of companies, when they had their funding cut, did not recuperate that funding money. They're not going to find it in other places. And the smaller the company, the harder it is. And that affects communities, marginalised communities, and it's really, really important that young children at school have the opportunity to go and see live performance, whatever it is.
There's always public funding, but I mean over the last 10 years it has dwindled to near nothing. So you have probably more people than you had before fighting over a much smaller pot, and a lot of artists end up putting on work when they've no money at all, and they're really running into debt just trying to put arts on the stage or just get it out there, you know.
When I started out, it was in theatre and it was on stage. And it was working in really, really lowly funded productions. My first productions when I worked in a theatre company, had everybody working on probably about 1/5 of what they should have made. And we were young and we were keen to do that. But there comes a point, I think, when we all have responsibilities and we all have families to support, or we have houses to pay for and bills, that we can't do that anymore. And that's why I'm here to support the campaign. Not just so that people can have a fair wage, but also that artists can be paid well, audiences can enjoy the best that the arts here have to offer, and that society can get the full benefit of what the arts can bring.
I can feel something growing in a small body shifting the ground. When I was younger, I could hear it, but it's back. It's my sound. Sometimes I feel like I've lost my only voice, and I realize only I can choose my choice. I have to run away. I have to sit and stay alive. But I'm allowed to say that I'm proud of the way that I spend my days these days.
The funding has helped us. I say us, me and my sister. My sister does the same thing as well. So whenever we were starting out, well, I was part of a youth group, and I would get funding to do some work with them, as musicals in a weekend, and that really gave me a taste for it. And without them, I really wouldn't have been able to start. I didn't go away to go to drama school or anything. I went to Queen's University to do something completely different. So it was completely out of the blue that I started into this profession, actually professionally. And now Philippa and myself, we are called O'Hara Sisters, and we like to bring out our own music, and especially during COVID, whenever all of that sort of stopped, it's all very expensive to do properly. At the Arts Council were very generous in helping us out there, and we were able to produce a lot of media and a lot of things that would help us develop our career, and we wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
I come from Larne originally, so like not in Belfast. I come from a kind of working class background. I had a single parent, and without sort of government support in the arts, I wouldn't have been able to get into it. It wasn't an option for me. I went to sort of a grammar school. It was all about kind of the sciences and that kind of thing. Arts was seen as something you do on the side. So I would have fallen between the cracks in that. And the problem is, if we don't have funding for the arts, it doesn't mean that the arts won't continue in some form. It just means that it will only continue in some form for the people who can afford it. So the likes of the working classes, the likes of people who use it in education, it will disappear for them, which is the great shame of it, and that's why we need to keep fighting.
20 years ago I left Belfast to do a professional training degree in acting, and I was brought back home. The new Lyric was just built, and between the Lyric, the Crescent Arts Centre, OMAC, it was just so much for me to come home for and work in Northern Ireland. All of the projects that I did for probably the first 15 years were publicly funded, and that's where I learnt my craft. That's where I learnt what it was to be a good storyteller, the things that I found important. I learnt about them in Belfast and through publicly funded theatres, theatre companies, writing, research and development, just so many different things. And since 2015, our arts and culture funding has been squeezed, and I personally have felt that very much, and it's been devastating to the sector, and we're here tonight to just encourage Stormont to consider that when they're making their 2025 budget.
Had it not been for Arts Council funded theatre companies, I would not be where I am today. Companies like Tinderbox, Kibosh, Bruiser, Prime Cut, The Lyric, The Mac, Big Telly, each one striving to connect and heal, to educate and entertain audiences throughout Northern Ireland and beyond. Here, with these exceptional theatre companies, I gained experience in rehearsal rooms and in front of audiences. It was here I came to know the stories that I wanted to be a part of and the billion different ways that they could be told. But the stark reality is that many Northern Irish artists do not see a future here in Northern Ireland. And if our sector is not properly supported, our artists and those coming behind them may no longer be on our doorstep. One statistic that I would like to reiterate tonight is that the Arts Council of Northern Ireland found 66% of young artists aged 18 to 34 say that they would consider, or they have considered, permanently leaving Northern Ireland for better career prospects elsewhere. I've seen many colleagues faced with the choice of leaving the industry or leaving the country. These include emerging artists and mid-career artists, and artists who have spent years investing their art form here, only to find there's no longer room for them to grow.
But why do our members on average across the UK earn £15,000 a year? But why do our members in the north of Ireland earn £11,200 a year? The average wage in the UK is 30 grand. Our members on less than half of that, and members in the north of Ireland on 2/3 of that. 60% of our members dependent at some point in their career on social security. We are a trade union of contrast where 75% of the artists on stage, on average, are members of their union. But the average wage in Britain is 35 grand a year. How is that possible? It is possible because of the constant underfunding of the sector, the constant gatekeeping by those who are supposed to be paying the bills, those who are supposed to have an agenda that is driven by growth, an agenda that's driven by social cohesion, an agenda that is driven by the audiences who they serve as their elected representatives. And let's talk about what audiences think, because we're told in the press that our people, it doesn't matter, it's not reality, it's not real what they do. And you know what, audiences don't really care, voters don't really care, you're bottom of the pile. Well, 12,500 people last year signed our petition to support arts funding in the north of Ireland. We have seen hundreds and hundreds of postcards filled in across the Christmas season alone by audiences who value the arts.
Everybody, we know we need more money for the arts here. It's you can ask anybody that works on either side of the camera, on either side of the stage about what's needed here. And we have heard that there have been, and I know this myself as a trade union official, I see what happens when people have less opportunities, when they are, when casts are reduced in size, when fewer productions happen, for example, in the theatre, but also including, arts interventions that go on. Those are sliding down the scale of being available to people as well. So we can see it happening on the ground, and people are struggling to pay artists a reasonable wage. All of those things are contributing to a lessening a dearth of the available industry here, and that's not what we want or we need. It's, to me, and I would say anybody who's working in this sector and others, it's actually a really easy win to pay money to the arts because it gives money back into the communities. That's proven. So there's no need not to invest in it. You'll get money back. And isn't it everything about growth at the moment?
And recently we managed to actually fight hard against the cuts in Scotland with Creative Scotland and the Scottish government, and we'd like to do the same here. Stormont has to up its game. The arts are important to the Belfast economy and to the Northern Irish economy. It's about investing and growing, not cutting and withering.
So you may have heard that Creative Scotland's dedicating £100 million to the arts by 2028. That includes, I think, somewhere in the region of 36 million coming to the arts in Scotland this year. Last year we got around about 10 million for the arts in Northern Ireland, which it's not, there was no additional, although you can say there was additional money put in, it wasn't actually anything other than a real terms cut. Just to sustain is actually cutting year on year, and that's on top of a 5% cut that happened the year before. Over the last 10 years, over 40% of investment in the arts from government here has been cut.
Yeah, I've seen good examples of where the arts has been supported better. One of the things I would love to see in Northern Ireland is a basic living wage for artists. It's something that the Republic of Ireland has put into practice over the last few years, and I think that would make an incredible difference to the choice that artists have of whether they can stay in Northern Ireland to fulfil their career.
It all comes down to kind of the attitude and how we view the arts and the importance that we put in it. Likes of the French system, where they celebrate the arts, and it's a real kind of burgeoning industry for them. But even if we look at ourselves, like the film industry here is something that is big, and it's increasing tourism, it's increasing companies from outside that are coming here to film here. But if we don't support the grassroots of the arts, then we don't feed into that system in any way.
Here in Northern Ireland, we know the least amount of money is spent per capita in the arts, and I would like to see that change. I would like the spending in the arts to be equitable to other countries in the UK.
We are an economic powerhouse that generates a 23% return. A 23% return in the north of Ireland for every pound that's spent. That's an extraordinary level of investment. But yet, completely irrationally, the budget for the Arts Council of Northern Ireland stands at £13 million a year. Now, to put that into context, let's compare it to the city of Berlin. The city of Berlin that receives just under €1 billion a year in funding itself. Imagine the potential for the economy in the north of Ireland, or indeed across the UK, if that level of serious investment was delivered. Sometimes our members have to face the contrast of the sparkling wine in their hand this evening and the return home to the rented bedsit flat, and the worry about putting food on the table and the constant precarity of work. It is that contrast that they are constantly told has to drive their practice, drive their art. The poorer you are, the better you are at your job. Never an argument that seems to apply to the bosses. Never an argument applied to Andrew Lloyd Webber, although based on his recent lack of hits, maybe there is some truth.
If I give £1 to the government and they give me 23p back for every pound I give them, £1.23 back, I wouldn't stop giving them money. I'd be up in Stormont throwing money at them. And for me, I think it makes economic sense. Those figures are black and white, you can't argue with them. It's an investment to get more back. And at a time when, yes, there are pressures in all budgets, there aren't a lot of budgets where you're going to get more back than you put in. So I think that's part of the argument, but also from a human perspective, the value of the arts is huge. It's whether it's physical well-being, mental well-being. I was reading something this morning about a North American example, but where even the likes of dementia was diminished in people who went to the theatre regularly by 35%. There was a statistic about 18% less crime in areas with an active cultural organisation. So these are things that are good for society. The arts improve people's lives. They bring communities here in a fractured society together. And I'm really hard pressed to see any argument against it. I mean, the harder question, the answer is, why not? And I just don't have any argument to say you shouldn't put more money in the arts.
I think it's incredibly important that we invest in the arts, because you see around what we can do with the money that we've got at the minute, and that's not the right thing. It's not the excuse. What could we do if we were even to match the rest of the UK, to match the south of Ireland? What we could do with that, and it's not education versus the arts, it's not health versus the arts. Everything is enclosed in that, and we as human beings, we are artists. Every single one of us are, and if we're lucky enough to be able to do this as our job, it's something that really needs to be supported, and it helps all sectors along the way. All of the statistics speak for themselves and how much revenue it actually brings in. So if they're talking money,
it's a small amount of investment really for a gargantuan return. You invest in the arts, you're also investing in health and well-being. You're investing in communities and connection and culture and healing and education especially, So this, for me, investing in the arts isn't taking anything away from any other sector. It's really improving it.
The arts is obviously, it goes through all sort of sectors of the community. It's in education, it's in cross-community, as well as entertainment and all that thing. And entertainment, theatre and cinema drives the nighttime economy here. And if we want to have a vibrant city that keeps tourists coming here, we need to encourage that. And it's something that we need to encourage across the board so that it doesn't die out, because if that dies out, then what do the tourists have to come here for? The arts celebrates positivity, and I think sometimes we get criticised here for sort of wallowing in the past. Our tourist attractions are the Titanic and the Peace Walls, so it's sort of the dark past that we've come through, but the arts celebrates a way through that, a way forward, and a way for us to voice that and tackle that without picking up the gun.
You might think you've got to be an art lover to love the arts. Not at all. You can see what happens to our communities when you invest in art. You can look at regeneration programs. I live in Bangor. Look at the beautiful murals that are there in Bangor. You can see one of our members here that's talking today is a clown doctor. She goes in and talks to children who are really, really poorly, and she gives them a bit of joy and laughter in their lives. There's outreach programs going into schools. You only have to read any of the hundreds of postcards to see what it means to everybody, and that can be about getting out and getting on with friends, or it can be about finding, as someone said, it makes me believe I can do anything.
We need more arts funding. Without it, we will lose Michael from Belfast, who loves theatre because it gives people a sense of purpose. And we will lose Jade from Newton Abbey, who loves theatre because it makes life magic.
We need more arts funding because without it, we lose Jack, who lives in London, and he loves theatre because he loves the chaos. Ali, Kane, who lives in Donegal. I do performing arts in college, and theatre has always been a big part of my life, and I love doing shows. And Jessie, Eliana, and Grace, who live in Bushmills, and the love of theatre is because of the energy and the sing-alongs.
Only Sarah, who divides her time between Belfast and Dublin, because she says theatre tells important stories that help us understand ourselves and each other, its community. What about Howard from Bangor? It gets me out of my head, out of the house, and out with friends.
James from Northern Ireland. It is an amazing place to make memories. Scarlett from Stranmillis. You can be anything. And Vanessa from Ballymena. I love the theatre so much. My husband and I have learning difficulties. If it wasn't for the theatre, we'd have nothing.
We need more arts funding. Without it, we will lose
Beth Thompson, who lives in Ballymoney. She loves theatre because it's family time and tradition. She loves learning about life and love in theatre. We would lose Katie, who lives in Belfast. She loves theatre because it connects people in a way that nothing else comes close to. And we'd lose Skye, who lives in Bangor, and she loves theatre because it brings her joy.
My message to the people in power would be, it's not education versus art, it's not health versus art, everything is enclosed in the one, and one helps the other. And if we're talking about bringing money into the country, if that's what you need, if that's what you want, art is a big way to do it, and you'd be mad not to.
Arts investment is something that everybody will appreciate. Arts investment will bring back money to your local communities and into Northern Ireland. It will bring money in tourism, it will bring money in your local infrastructures, but it will bring joy and appreciation of those people that vote for you. Please give us what is a drop in the ocean for Stormont and a massive boost for the arts, artists and our communities here in Northern Ireland.
It's not about a handout. It's not about saying, give us a few quid, we're struggling. It's about, give us more investment, we'll give you something back. And that's a message that all of us here would be able to repeat again and again and again. I think that's the key message. The other thing is to have a bit of vision. I think sometimes, what's the diplomatic way of saying this? I think sometimes politics becomes about short-term results. And leadership can sometimes be lost to how do we maintain power, rather than saying what's best for society in the long run. And if I could give a greater message to politicians generally, it would be, look to the future, think medium term, think long term, and think what kind of society do we want to live in? I personally want to live in a society where the arts are important, where they're accessible to all, and where the people who create that product are properly recompensed for that work.
There are a few things you could do actually. So at the moment there is a consultation open on the budget, and we're looking for the Department for Communities to get money in general. So we're looking for a lot of people to say that the Department for Communities needs money, and they need money because it helps the arts. And we also want you to write to the Finance Minister, we want you to write to the Minister for Communities who holds those purse strings for the Arts Council, and say how important it is to you. You can visit our website, there is a campaign page about Northern Ireland, #ResistTheCuts. You can find everything there, and of course you can always just come directly to Equity to find out more. So plenty to do, you can do it today, and if you do it today you'll definitely have the voice of your community who wants the arts heard right in front of your MLAs.